Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Mi nombre es Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba. El canal se llama Seriela, estamos aquí para hablar de libros, algunos de ellos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hello, my name is Alba Mar. You may call me Alba. Channel name is Seriela, and we're here to talk about books and some of them in Spanish from Puerto Rico. And today I want to do the COVID Katchup Tag, for which I was tagged by Brian at Bookish, and who originally made the tag was Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics. Putting on the timer. Okay, because I want to see what's happening over at the BookTube Prize. We're supposed to have the judging, the first round of judges at 10 o'clock. So I want to be there for that. So, first question for the COVID Katchup Tag. I especially appreciate what Brian at Bookish mentioned towards the end of his tag, that he wanted to know how things were going in other parts of the world, and that's why I want to do the tag today, because at the end I want to tag some of the booktubers that I know from different countries. To see what's happening there. I'm very interested in that. Number one, when did you first hear about COVID-19? Thinking back, I probably heard the first inklings of the virus from Democracy Now!, which I watch every day. And as soon as Democracy Now! Started talking about the measures that were being taken in Wuhan, China, that's when I learned about COVID-19. Number two, how are things in your neck of the woods? Well, in the colony, things in our neck of the woods is always absurd. Always absurd. I'm going to link an article from Caribbean Business, which is like our Wall Street Journal here in the colony. If you want to know what's in the know in the colony, you read Caribbean Business. The article that I'm going to link has to do with one of the first contracts that the colonial administrators made here for the test. And that was, I think, a $20 million contract, for which the company, the contractor here, wanted $13 million up front. And that transaction, thankfully, fortunately, was stopped. But it didn't matter for the colonial administrators that the contractor who was buying these tests from Australia, yes, all the way from Australia, was a recently formed and registered company, Apex Contractors. Reminds me of the Roadrunner in Ajax. Everything was Ajax. Well, this Apex company had no experience whatsoever in anything that had to do with health or with medicine. They were a construction company, and they were awarded this $20 million contract, which was aborted, thankfully. I'm telling you, the things that you see here, you know, you have to laugh, not to cry. Then, of course, we had, at the beginning, we had the cruise ships, because, you know, there are a lot of cruises that stop in San Juan and sometimes in Ponce, right next door. And that's where we got our first-hand initial experience with COVID itself, when one of those cruise ships whose members had COVID, had contracted COVID, and came, and some of the passengers were from Italy. a married couple had to get off one of those cruises, and the married couple was hospitalized here in San Juan, and unfortunately the wife passed away here in Puerto Rico. and we have a message from the husband pleading with Puerto Ricans to take care. But we still, around April, end of March, April, whenever the salsa festival was, we still had people who were, you know, we had the salsa festival. And it turns out that one of the people who went to the salsa festival was a Panamanian doctor who had COVID and was wandering around the salsa festival, and they discovered that he had COVID when he went back to Panama. Yeah. So we've had situations like that, and of course, not just recently, but throughout the year, we have airlines and companies offering very, very low rates for plane tickets to Puerto Rico. And we've had all sorts of tourists that don't care about using their masks and about any of the restrictions that have been placed here. We have those kind of tourists. And then we have tourists who are very, you know, respectful and stay home. We have all kinds here. And there's not very much that we can do because Puerto Rico has no authority over its air, over its shores, over who comes, airports, who comes and who goes, nothing. And that's all under the purview of the federal government. And we know how the federal government has dealt with COVID-19 in the United States and then here. How are things going on the ground? Well, my favorite bookstore had to cut down drastically on its hours. It only opens from 12 to 5, 6 days a week. I think they're going to start opening again on Sunday, this Easter Sunday, because El Candil was a cultural center, and they had not only book signings, but musical recitals, poetry readings, and I think slowly but surely they're going to start getting back to that. Churches have been open for a while. At the beginning, our then governor, Wanda Vasquez, was very strict. She put down a very strict lockdown with curfew and fines at the beginning of last year in March, April, around there. And they were very strict at the beginning. But then as people started getting, you know, antsy, you know, hell broke loose. And we started getting more deaths. I'll put the latest numbers up here. There have been a total of over 2,000 deaths related to COVID here. But, you know, in Puerto Rico, sometimes we don't believe in the government statistics. Yeah, we've had bad experiences with that. Library has been closed like forever. Not even to take my own books to read, because it's not a library that circulates books. Supermarkets have always been open, and my heart goes out to all the supermarket employees. Yeah, they have been essential workers, as have been all the doctors and the nurses and people who work in hospitals. There's a drive-in. Suddenly there's a drive-in here in Ponce, so that you can watch movies. And churches have been open, and also restaurants with limited access. So yeah, that's what's been happening around here. Beach reading, number 3. Any books that you're looking forward to reading after COVID? You know what I want to read after COVID? The Great Influenza. During COVID, I had it out, and I would look at it, but I didn't have the heart to read it. Perhaps later on I'll grab it, because I'm interested in what happened for that great influence of the Spanish flu, but especially what happened here in Puerto Rico. But I haven't had the heart to read it yet. What's a book that you have read in these last months directly or indirectly because of COVID? Well, indirectly because of COVID, I have watched a lot of Zooms, and I have especially followed the Octavia Butler slow read. I'm not saying that the slow read is because of COVID. I'm just saying that because of COVID, I have been following it closely. And that's one of the last books that I read was for that, Clay's Ark. And if anybody has read Clay's Ark, it has to do with a virus, a very deadly virus, a very weird and disturbing virus. The book itself is like a dystopia, and I find dystopia unnerving. Yeah. And so reading that book and thinking about COVID was an experience. Yeah. Number 5, what is the best video that you have seen or have made during COVID? I've watched a lot of great videos during COVID. Of course, many people have mentioned Shawn's videos in which he has conversations, Zoom conversations with other people, you know, on BookTube and off BookTube, and people that I had, you know, I was new to, that I'd never seen. So I love that. I always enjoy whenever I see the Poptimist pop up, David at the Poptimist. I'm always glad to see him. And I was very glad to see Mel after her bout with COVID. Yeah. So those are the ones that I really enjoyed. Those new Zoom ones. Yeah. And even the Zoom conferences coming out of different universities, that's been fantastic. Number 6, are you going to have the vaccine? I had my first vaccine last week, and thankfully, fortunately, I didn't feel too much discomfort, although I noticed that the day after, I think it was, I really had to lay down, and I slept for a few hours. The whole vaccine situation has me thinking about Jonas Salk and the polio vaccine and how that was dealt with. Yeah, I can remember those days. And also recalling Julia Alvarez's book, Saving the World, in which it's a story about a nurse who is traveling the Atlantic, or, you know, around the world. I think they traveled around the world on this Spanish ship that took children who had one of these fevers. I think it was yellow fever, I think it was. And they would use these infected children to vaccinate different people in the Spanish colonies. Yeah, so that, yeah. The vaccine has me thinking of all these books and past experiences with vaccines. I'm just hoping that everybody who wants it, right, because you can't force people, but everybody who wants to be vaccinated can be vaccinated in this society. So anyway, who do I tag? There's so many people that I want to tag. As Brian at Bookish said, he wants to know what's happening in other parts of the world. So do I. So that's why I'm going to tag Marina at Young Gifted in Black. I'm going to tag Didi at Brown Girl Reading. I want to know what's happening in France. I'm going to tag Libropolis. I think that's his name. He's out of Costa Rica. I'm going to tag J.D. Estrada, although he is not, you know, he's in the United States. He's in Georgia. I want to see what's happening there. I want to know what's happening in the Canary Islands, so I'm going to tag Juan at Bookish Islander, and I'm going to tag Juan, el tocayo, Juan at Just One Reader, who's in Mexico. I'm going to tag Natalie. I think Natalie's channel is Curious Reader. And Nashwa, I'm going to tag her. I'll have her channel down below. I want to know what's happening with Jen at Remembered Reads up there in Canada. I want to know, I want an update from Mel at Mel's Bookland Adventures. And yeah. And anybody else? Oh, I want to know what's happening with Alicia at Alicia's channel. She knows. Pretty Brown-Eyed Reader, I think it is. And Kay at Kay the Reader. I want to know what's happening in her neck of the woods also. So that's it, people. What did I finish reading besides Clay's Ark by Octavia Butler? I'm reading, I finished Daughters of the Stone. Daughters of the Stone I'll talk about much more in a later video because it deserves its own video, its own extended chat. We had a wonderful Zoom conversation over there at Read So Lit's group. It was the March read for Dee Dee at Brown Girl Reading's Read So Lit book club. Fantastic. We got to meet the author. And it's a novel that takes place in Puerto Rico. Multi-generational. It's wonderful. And then I also finished reading Heaven My Home and by Attica Locke, which we're reading with the group at These Truths. And we branch out into different directions. And I will link you to Kim because, you know, Kim does such fantastic reviews. And she reviewed Heaven My Home already. I don't think I can add much more, except that I'm looking forward. If this becomes a series about Darren, the Black Texas Ranger, I'd be happy. I really enjoyed it. So what am I currently reading and my TBR? I just, I was late to the announcement that Karen at Run Right Reads, and I hope Karen does the COVID tag also. She was reading books from Puerto Rico. She's reading Rosario Ferrer's book, which I have, and I'm going to try reading that, and A Taste of Sugar that I took down. Here it is. Taste of Sugar. I'm going to try to read that one. Currently reading as a buddy read with Terry, and I'll link her channel down below, How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents. We're like in the middle of this and we'll finish very soon. Reading with Kathy at Grim Reader, Red Rosa, a graphic biography of Rosa Luxemburg. Very interesting, by Kate Evans. Love it. All the tags that I have there. And for March Mystery Madness and March of the Mammoths, yeah, I have not been, I've not been a good girl. I have not been reading Todo Velascoran by Paco Ignacio Taibo, but I will. It'll probably be a long-lasting project like Don Quixote was. Okay. And that's about it, everybody. I want to get this edited and uploaded so that I can pay attention to the BookTube prize. Okay? Take care, everybody. Keep on reading. I appreciate your time. Welcome to the new subscribers. Happy to have you here. Y a mi gente, cuídense mucho. Sigan leyendo. Los quiero. Adiós.